Hello, welcome back to Icon Coaching. My name's Kirk, and I'm one of the coaches. The key is to get started. One of the things great leaders do is they know how and when to break the rules. It's not easy. It's actually one of the hardest parts because a lot of the rules that we create inside of companies or even our cultures and our countries are really there to protect us. They're there to help us know about right and wrong and good and bad. And they create guardrails for us. But what they also do is create patterns and habits of behavior, reoccurring and repeating systems that we live within. A lot of what we do inside of leadership is evaluate those systems and ask the question, are they still working? Are they helpful? And a lot of times that can be really hard to do because they become normalized inside of our practice. I was asked one time recently, what is the difference between leadership and management? And it's a great question, and we could do a whole video just on that. But in brief, you can say that leaders are the ones who help set and create the rules inside of a company. They help set and create the policies and practices, and really more importantly, they define the game we're playing. They define the goals that we're going after, the big objectives. Managers then receive those objectives and they execute on them. They follow the rules. They go after and help accomplish the objectives. But one of the things that leaders need to be able to do is they need to know when it's time to pivot, when it's time to change the objective, when it's time to break the rules. Now, why is this so hard? And I'm going to tell you, it's hard. It's hard to live inside of a culture that has an established way of doing things and then invite people to do it differently. It's change, and change is just difficult. We often think about there being positive and negative change, and that's probably true. If revenue goes up a lot, that's probably positive change. But inside of the human psychology, change is just change, and it's hard. And so when you're asking people to do things differently, you're in essence breaking rules. And why is that hard? It's very simple, actually. You see, inside of the way that we live and operate, we become familiar with something. And there's a familiar, the way we do things around here. But of course, there's also the unfamiliar, and there's a dichotomy there, familiar and unfamiliar. And that's pretty innocuous. Those aren't moral words. They're just familiar and unfamiliar. They're neutral in a lot of ways. But over time, the things we're familiar with become normal. And of course, the opposite of normal is abnormal. And that word has just a tinge of like abnormal. It's just a little bit otherly. But then you can stack on top of that reasonable. And of course, the opposite of reasonable is unreasonable. And you may have been told you're being unreasonable. And that's supposed to communicate you're doing it wrong or you're doing it badly. Don't be unreasonable is usually a critique of somebody's thinking or behavior. And given enough time, things that are reasonable also can grow to becoming right. And the opposite of right is wrong. And now we're clearly inside of moral constructs. It is wrong to do things that are wrong, and it is right to do things that are right. And if you give that enough time inside of a system, right and wrong become good and bad. And if you add the right mix of cultural influences around that, or religious connotations, or moral structure around it, good and bad become good and evil. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're supposed to break rules that are breaking rules related to good and evil. That's not the point. There is good and there is evil. There is right and there is wrong. But I hope you can see that given enough time, a practice or a way of doing things that starts as familiar can become normal and then reasonable and then right and then good. And when something has become right or good that is also not working, it's time to break the rules. And you will start to behave in ways that are unreasonable or that the system might assume are wrong and sometimes bad. And yet, great leaders know when to break those kinds of rules. They can tell the difference between breaking rules that are helpful and breaking rules that are unhelpful. And they can lead people through that change and help them understand, no, this isn't about right and wrong. This isn't about good and bad. It's simply familiar versus unfamiliar. And that is always relative to goal. Where are we trying to go? What objective are we trying to accomplish? And when we're doing something that we've described as good and bad, that is also preventing us from getting to a good goal, it's probably just a familiar, unfamiliar problem. So great leaders know how to break rules like that. They know how and when to do it. And often it's subject to objective. What kind of goal are you going after? What's happening in the economy? When has something that has been super helpful become unhelpful and it's time to make a change? Here's another way to think about this. If you're looking for a solution to a problem and you've looked hard in every place that you know to look and you can't find the answer, it's not emerging, the team is stuck, it's entirely possible that it's in a blind spot, that it's just outside of the reasonable way of doing things, and that it's been described as wrong. Like, we don't go there. We don't ask questions like that. But when you have reoccurring problems, the solution is often found in the taboos. And great leaders have the courage to walk into the taboos in pursuit of very helpful answers. So if you're facing a reoccurring problem, I invite, and you can't find the solution, I invite you to walk into the taboos, break the rules, but do it for the benefit of those around you. Hey, if you got value out of this video and you'd like more of them coming into your inbox, just hit the subscribe and like button. That would be awesome. You can also go to iconcoaching.com for more resources and to connect with us. We'd love to hear from you. You can schedule a meeting. We'll sit down and chat about what's going on in your leadership journey. See you soon.